Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Iranian President Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, along with a high-level delegation, is currently visiting Pakistan. This important and a significant visit by Iranian president. During this particular visit, he had very important engagements with the top leadership of Pakistan, including President Asif Ali Zardari, Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, Chief of Army Staff General Sayyid Asim Munir, Interior Minister Mohsen Naqvi, Foreign Minister Mohammad Ishaq Dar, as well as National Assembly Speaker, as well as the Senate Chairman. And during all these meetings, both the sides have reiterated their resolve to enhance the bilateral relationship between the two brotherly countries in multiple fields. Specifically talking about the meeting between President Asif Ali Zardari and President Raisi, President Zardari said that Pakistan and Iran enjoyed close fraternal ties based on shared religion, culture and history, which needed to be further strengthened for the mutual benefit of the two brotherly countries. Likewise, the President of Iran, Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, emphasized the need for further expanding and consolidating the bilateral relations in all areas of mutual interest. When we specifically talk about the meeting between Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Iranian President have agreed on joint efforts to eradicate terrorism in the region. Also, likewise, in other important bilateral engagements, it has been agreed that both the countries are desirous of enhancing this particular bilateral relationship in multiple fields and also working together for peace, stability and the regional security as well. In today's program, we are going to talk about the overall trajectory of this particular significant bilateral relationship between Iran and Pakistan, and also the significance of this visit and the potential in multiple areas of enhancing this bilateral relationship in the future as well. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Mustafa Haider Sayyid. He is international relations expert. Mr. Sayyid, thank you very much for time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. And also in the studio, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Manzoor Afridi. He is foreign affairs expert. Dr. Afridi, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Jamil Khan, his former ambassador. Dr. Khan, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. If both of you gentlemen allow me, let me begin the discussion with Dr. Jamil Khan on Skype. Dr. Khan, now as per your understanding, the significance of this particular visit firstly, and please shed a little bit of light on the overall trajectory, how this particular bilateral relationship between Iran and Pakistan has evolved over the decades.
No, well needed diplomatic efforts at the bilateral level. And then the evolution of this foreign policy towards Iran has always been evolving. This time it's taking a positive trajectory. There was some humps just in January, and that was immediately ironed out by both the countries. That did not flare up any further, and that has really paved the way for a visit like this one. This is the highest level visit of the Iranian, from the Iranian side, that the president of the Iran is visiting us. So that is how and Prime Minister and the president has already illustrated about the relations, which is based on our culture, civilization, our neighborly proximity. So the significance of relations with Iran, I think it's a very huge and very high. Now, in the backdrop of this visit, is it only that we should view it from the bilateral angle? In the present day world, where the multilateral geopolitical environment is slightly sensitive, so this outcome of this visit would also be probably viewed by our Foreign Office from that sensitivity point of view. And my indication is towards the 6 sanctions which has been imposed on Iran by the United States. And those sanctions are primary sanctions, secondary sanctions, trade sanctions, which has been imposed Economic Power Act of the United States. So, and then also the Human Rights and Terrorism Act, what the United States has. So, under those backdrops, this eight agreement, what we have really signed agreement and the MOUs, those are a very good trajectory so far as our future relations are concerned, even the present relations. We have to navigate ourselves and we have to steer through these sanctions, and these sanctions are mainly imposed in the full sanction. The United States sometimes imposes partial sanction and sometimes it imposes full sanction. The full sanction which has been imposed
Right.
on Iran is energy, which of course we are affected because we have this pipeline. And the other one is shipping. The third one is the financial sector. So shipping, by far, we don't have that much, but at some point in time, we had a very strong bilateral exchange of our shipping
Right.
facilities and repair facilities. But now, once we try and reap the fruits of it, probably we'll have to take into the loop the United States the way India had done it while it imported oil from Iran, and the way India had done it while it imported weapon from Russia, that they got waiver. So
Right, your point
we
is well
will.
taken. Dr. Khan, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. I just want you to shed a bit of light very quickly, please, on this particular thing about the strength of the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iran, particularly when you already mentioned there had been an episode in January, but right sooner after that, we'd already had a chance of discussing that particular episode back in January, but right after that, both the countries came together to de-escalate the situation. Doesn't it show the strength and the depth of the bilateral relationship on both the sides?
Deep-rooted bilateral relationship, deep-rooted respect among and deep-rooted people-to-people relation with India, with Iran. I beg your pardon. So all these things are the demonstration and the basis of our very strong relations, which we want to have, and we started having it with Iran. Iran and Pakistan have been way back once it was RCD, and even before that, there were some difficulties which were ironed out. And now, despite the fact that Iran has been imposed so much of sanction, Pakistan, because of its neighborhood and because of its deep-rooted relations based on its culture, civilization, religion, and based on people-to-people relation, Pakistan is to have an even stronger trajectory. It has to
Right.
take Pakistan and Iran both. It has to take it to the new and higher trajectory of relations. But
Right.
that said, the Pakistan also has to have the sensitivity in mind. Any country having relations with Iran, sensitivity in mind about the multilateral diplomacy which is going on in the region. Although Iran had steered through, navigated through the diplomatic fallout of its attack on Israel, and they navigated it in such a manner that everyone says it's a win-win game. So whatever eight
Right,
agreement and
multilateral
MOU.
diplomacy, a very important point that you have highlighted. When we talk about the menace of terrorism, during the course of these meetings, we have seen the resolve from both the sides to deal with this particular menace of terrorism through joint efforts. When we specifically talk about the regional environment that happens to be sensitive as far as Pakistan and Iran's concern is concerned, as far as terrorism is concerned, how both these countries can collaborate and cooperate vis-a-vis, given the fact that there is a de facto authority in Afghanistan, which happens to be once again the home which from where we get the terrorism emanating since the takeover of Kabul by the Afghan Taliban. I'll come back to you, Dr. Khan, to take your view on this particular important aspect. Also, let me bring in Mr. Syed into the discussion. Mr. Syed, going at the very basics of this particular bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iran, the major core strengths of this bilateral relationship as per your understanding.
I think that Pakistan and Iran have had a very historical relationship, and both have also supported each other's core interests. If you remember, when the annexation of Kashmir was taken place illegally by the Modi regime, Iran took a very strong stand, and the supreme leader of Iran also gave a very unequivocal policy statement supporting Pakistan's stance on Kashmir. And there are numerous other instances. But I think this trip is more also about regional connectivity. Pakistan's opening up to its neighbors and enhancing friendly ties. We saw that the Saudi Arabia, which is of course not our neighbor but important country in the GCC, we had a excellent outreach with a very high powered delegation visiting Pakistan, particularly for investment. And we know that Iran-China relations have become very, very close, and China has, in the Belt and Road Initiative, invested a very large, a significant amount in Iran, particularly in the oil and gas sector. And Iran is a part and parcel of the Belt and Road Initiative. And since Iran borders Pakistan and borders Balochistan, where the Gwadar port is, I think that enhancing relations with Iran will also provide stability in Balochistan, provide us a sense of calm, a healing touch in Balochistan, which is much needed, and also can lead to the expansion of the China-Pakistan economic corridor to Iran. As you know, the Chabahar port is a very important port which Iran has unveiled a few years ago, and the Gwadar port is very close to it. So rather than competition, I think cooperation between the two ports can also take place. And we also recently saw that China had brokered a historic rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So I feel that Pakistan is very ideally located and ideally placed strategically and politically to actually benefit the dividends of its relationships with Iran and with Saudi Arabia, and particularly because Saudi-Iran rapprochement has just taken place and their relations are very good, and we are placed right there with China as the overall peacemaker. So I think that trade, which we saw a key statement on from the President, Mr. Raisi, that he said it is unacceptable for the existing bilateral trade to remain as it is, and it should be at the minimum of $10 billion. And then
taking to $10 billion, that particular mark that has been actually aimed at. Now, currently, if I'm correct, that's $2 billion, the bilateral trade volume between Pakistan and Iran. Going up to that particular level of $10 billion, you already mentioned that this particular high-level engagement between Pakistan and Iran is basically focused on regional connectivity, the overall equation in the region as far as the BRI and the CPAC is concerned now, expansion of CPAC is concerned. How important and crucial this regional connectivity is when we are aiming for that $10 billion trade volume between Pakistan and Iran?
I think that the future of this region, where Pakistan is strategically placed with the Middle East and South Asia, and if you go a little beyond and you look east, there's ASEAN, is a region which has the potential of growing very rapidly. And one part of the region is growing very rapidly. ASEAN is by leaps and bounds moving forward economically. We've seen how Vietnam, they say Vietnam is the next China, and we are seeing what's happening in Bangladesh. It's booming economically. So this region, it's the Asian century, and with Iran, we've seen that despite many sanctions that it has faced, they have shown a lot of economic and political resilience. They have survived those sanctions, and we've also seen that despite those sanctions, many countries in the neighborhood like India and other countries like Russia, like China, have engaged proactively with Iran and have reaped the dividends through commerce, through connectivity, through projects. So since we are already bordering with them, and we are already a lot of oil as we know, some of it legally, some of it in the black, comes via Balochistan, I think that we can pass and upgrade our legislation that puts taxes where we can actually add revenue from the state and actually do commerce through the huge border that we have with Iran.
So through regional territory, there is a huge prospect of taking this bilateral trade volume up to $10 billion.
Yes.
Dr. Afridi, the bilateral relationship, the core strengths of it. First of all, please shed a bit of light on the core strengths of the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iran over the years, how it has evolved.
Well, Pakistan and Iran both are Muslim countries. They share a common border. I mean, they are neighboring countries, and there are many commonalities between the two states. Let me tell you, I think very much well known to most of the people that Iran was the first country who recognized People's Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And after that, we have seen that Iran and Pakistan, both they were members of the Baghdad Pact. Later, it was renamed as CENTO, Central Treaty Organization. So that time, if we see Iran was very close ally of United States. On the other hand, Pakistan was also enjoying very much cordial relationship with United States of America. We have seen in 1965 that Iran supported Pakistan, and it stood side by side with Pakistan. Pakistan appreciated it very well, and on many international fora, Pakistan reiterated its friendship towards Iran. After that, we have seen, I think that was in 1968, where at that time Pakistan was enjoying good relationship on the one side with China, on the other side with Iran. So it was Pakistan who facilitated normalization of relations between Iran and People's Republic of China, Communist China, as Iran was in American camp. So the relationship between the two countries, Iran and China, those were, we can say, not very normal. So when the Princess Fatima visited Beijing with the help of Pakistan, so both countries, Iran and China, they were very much thankful to Pakistan. Later on in 1971, in the Bengal crisis, when there was then the creation and formation of Bangladesh, so Iran again supported Pakistan politically. And on the Kashmir issue, from time to time, Iran stood very firmly with Pakistan. So these are the things. If we talk about the RCD, Regional Cooperation for Development, later renamed as ECO, Economic Cooperation Organization. So Iran and Pakistan, they were the founding members, and still they are there. So it shows the real commitment of friendship between the two countries. Yes, sometimes, ups and downs they came, and I think it's almost in the relationship of all, two countries. So it also happened between Pakistan and Iran, but both countries, they are very much committed to enhance their relationship. They are strategic, political, also the very much needed, that is the economic relationship. And within OIC, if we see in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, both countries, they seem very much similar, not only on bilateral, but of course regional, as well as the Muslim world issues. If we take the stance of Israel, I mean the Palestinian issue, or whether that is the Islamophobia, or those are some, the movements of independence in the earlier Muslim countries, I mean in Algeria or in Tunisia, if we see, or in some other African and Asian countries. So both countries, they cooperated and they raised their voice for the independence of all those countries. The recent visit, I think it's just the continuation of all those commitments what the two states they had already done in the last decades. It's important visit because in the last 8 years, it is the first Iranian president who is visiting Pakistan. It's also very important that after the escalation of the Israel and Iran this conflict, so Iranian president first chose Pakistan. So it also shows that importance and utility of Pakistan's that geographical position, and also the history long that the friendship or the cordial relationship which remained in the history with Tehran. Many issues are there. I mean, culturally they are very much bound, and there are some regional threats like terrorism. Both countries very much committed to eradicate this menace from these two states and also from the region. Pakistan is geographically placed in such position and such, geography. On the one hand there is Middle East, on the other hand there is West Asia, Central Asia, and also the ASEAN countries, I mean Southeast Asia. If you take China, so that it is East Asia. So that's why not only the great powers, but also the regional countries, also the neighboring states of Pakistan, they always look towards Pakistan. And I think it's a high time for both the states not only to enhance their bilateral relationship, but also to tackle some regional issues which are very common and confronting by these two states. Let me talk about the economic ties. So historically, Pakistan had been enjoying very good economic relationship and ties with Tehran, but due to some challenges, this relationship could not move ahead. Now it's again time in this era of regional integration. Also, Mustafa Saab talked about the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. There are 6 corridors. This China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is one of very significant flagship projects under the BRI. On the one hand, Pakistan is enjoying cordial relationship, friendly relationship, very exemplary relationship with China. But on the other hand, Iran is also having very good ties with China, and we are aware about its 25 years of agreement for more than 420 billion US dollars. So very good opportunity for both countries, Pakistan and Iran, to be embedded more and more within the framework of BRI, particularly under the umbrella of the CPEC, to enhance their trade. Now,
so the prospect of enhancing the trade volume to $10 billion.
To $10 billion. Last year, both countries, they said that, okay, they would enhance their trade up to $5 billion. But now, very much committed that they would enhance in next 5 years to $10 billion. So currently, if we see the trade between the two countries, there is mostly informal, if we see, and mostly border trade in the crude oil form, and also in the LPG, right? So, but good sign and good omen is that for the last 2-3 months, if we see our imports from Iran, those increased 16%, right? So it shows the commitment of the current government even to enhance more and more.
Right. Before I go to the other aspect of this particular bilateral relationship, as you have talked about the economic prospects. Now, the importance of sustenance markets. We saw they were established back in May 2023, the first month machine border crossing, right? So what's the significance of that as far as the bilateral trade?
Well, if you see, globally, those areas who are adjacent to border of any other state, if we look to the border of United States and Canada, if you look to the border of China with many countries like with Vietnam or with some other countries, even with Russia or with Kyrgyzstan, if we take examples of even some other countries, even in Africa. So those areas adjacent to and in geographical proximity with the international border, those are relatively, the areas of prosperity. But I think due to various problems and maybe misunderstanding or that we were not able to develop these areas adjacent to our international borders here in the case of Iran. But if we see this one, yes, the Pashin area where an international market that was established, we can take much and more benefit from it in future. Likewise, I mean, by having more and more road access to those areas under the CPEC, there is already a coastal highway, the Makran, Baluchistan, that expressway that's already there. Right. So it can be extended, and even we can take it to the even Iran's border. Another thing, Even special economic zone, it can play a very important role in this regard. Under the CPEC, there are 9 special economic zones. So even that city, it can be under that special economic zone where we can invite some international investors, even the Iranian investors, their companies to invest over here. And it will not only help Iran to reduce its pressure of international economic sanctions, but also will enhance its bilateral trade with Pakistan.
Right. Dr. Khan, now already you mentioned the sensitivity in the regional environment. Now a common threat to both the countries, Iran and Pakistan, the menace of terrorism. There has been a resolve during the course of these meetings between the top leadership of Iran and Pakistan to deal and address that particular challenge with joint efforts. How important are joint efforts and collaboration in that particular regard, and how to engage with the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, particularly when we see since the Kabul takeover, the Afghan soil has once again become a safe haven for the insurgent and militant and terrorist organizations?
These are very significant points, which I'm sure is deliberated while the president of Iran met with the chief of army staff and other meetings with the prime minister and the president. This is one thing which is of a common interest. Iran, Pakistan, of course, is the highest common interest. But then SCO, in their charter of SCO, counterterrorism is one of the aspects, and there have been exercises among the countries on that. Not only that, but the terrorism is one aspect that the entire world, it does not have any sensitivity once they address the issue of terrorism. The only point is there are some skepticism, which there are certain countries they have, that some of the groups perhaps are padded or perhaps supported by external forces, such as from Afghanistan. The Afghanistan soil is used by RAW. And likewise, Iran also have some skepticism about some of the foreign agencies that they are supporting, those groups which are operating. And we also have skepticism. Kulbhushan is one of the very glaring examples. So these high-level visits and high-level engagements, they help us in addressing this problem jointly. And terrorism is one aspect that all the international agencies and all the international community as a whole, what you mentioned is about Afghanistan. Afghanistan, say Iran, China, Pakistan together can influence Afghanistan a lot more than one single country could try. Now, Afghanistan, according to the latest report of the United Nations monitoring team, there are more than 20 groups they are operating, and Pakistan is one of the major victims of those groups, and particularly one group, that is TTP. So if Iran, China, Pakistan together under the umbrella of Shanghai Organization, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I can very easily and conveniently foresee that this visit would further add on to the efforts of the region. And once these two countries, they start addressing their particularly Iran has reservation about, and we also has about the Jashul Adal and previously Jandullah, and we have observation about the BLA, and we have our sensitivity about certain organizations. They are being used by some other interested and transnational parties, which skepticism could be ironed out and which could be removed by such a high-level meeting. So we definitely could benefit both the countries, Iran and Pakistan. Both the countries can benefit with this kind of an engagement where, and as I said, that the Chief of Army Staff meeting with the President of Iran, altogether, there were efforts already about the liaison officers on the border, and there probably might as well be some joint border patrolling at subsequent stages. There were some thoughts a long time back, but I'm not too sure whether this time it could have been discussed or not. Nothing has been reported so far. But I think that is also to build the confidence. It's so important that if they develop this kind of a mechanism, which was mentioned by Iran and which was some time back discussed by Pakistan, so that would definitely help. And once the terrorism is addressed, we would be able to address some of the interference in Pakistan or the skepticism of Iran that some of the interferences that the other agencies, they conduct, the international agencies. So that would also be addressed. That would further cement, that would further strengthen the relation, people to people relation, bilateral relation, and the relations which is now being the trade relations in which about 8 agreement and the MOU has been signed, that all are interlinked. And these interlinked items are these interlinked topics that could be then further strengthened by this kind of an engagement. And we would also underscore that such high level engagements and the visits, it is always followed by various other sub committees and various like joint GMC, joint ministerial committee meetings, which further draws the policies and plannings and removes the hurdles of any bilateral trade or bilateral. As was mentioned, that the only challenge which is now coming on our way between Iran and Pakistan is the sanctions, and those sanctions could also be addressed by very aggressive and active diplomacy, because there were some indications once we engaged, and one of our ministers engaged just about a few months ago about asking for the sanction due to our energy crisis in the country. So once that happens, I assume that we must also do not lose the sight of one thing, that Iran in the World Economic Index still, with all those problems and sanctions, still is about number 58, whereas Pakistan is 85. So Iran volume of their trade is quite high. The only thing is, if we regularize this border control and the smuggling, this 5 billion target could very conveniently be achieved, because we are losing our revenue and our dollars sometime, most of the time, it goes to Iran just to get those products which we need, particularly energy product. So the balance of trade, right now it's going through the smuggling, but even at later stages, balance of trade is one of the significant points. Pakistan has to look into the fact that what kind of goods and services it can additionally produce to address the needs and requirements of Iran. If we plan it now, all these agreements and MOUs, what we have signed, that would then address this problem of balance of trade, means that it should be at least positive from Pakistan, or at least it should be equal on both sides once the trade volume is calculated. So that planning is to be made at this stage, because if those plannings are not made and those feasibilities are not made at this stage by our respective ministries and Iran's respective ministries, and through the JMC, which is the Joint Ministerial Committees, which takes most of the decisions under the policies, which is decided among the two leaders of the country. So that would happen as a follow-up of the visit of Iranian president.
Right, Mr. Sayed. What about the engagement with the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, as far as the bilateral collaboration between Pakistan and Iran, as far as dealing and addressing the challenge and the menace of terrorism is concerned?
I think that Pakistan has a very clear position on this, that terrorism and having safe havens of organizations, of terrorist organizations, which are creating trouble in Pakistan and the neighborhood, is a red line for Pakistan. And we have been in the eye of the storm when it comes to terrorism for since the war on terror began by the United States. And we have now again unfortunately seen that a new wave of terrorism is being resurrected in Pakistan, even though we fought many wars on terror, and we've had the operation in Swat that we had against Mullah Fazlullah, and then Zarb-e-Azab, and multiple wars that we had in our ex-FATA area as well. So, Iran and Pakistan have shared security interests, I think, in the region, and I would say that I would go beyond Iran and Pakistan. I think Iran, Pakistan and China have shared security interests in the region, and they have shared goals as well for peace and stability, because I think the common aim of both of all three countries is to have more development, economic development and connectivity. And as long as we have these terrorist networks which are still launching attacks from Afghanistan and other countries into Pakistan, into Iran, we cannot undertake economic development as we envision. So, I think this joint communique is very important as far as security and terrorism is concerned, that we have seen from the Prime Minister and President Raisi. And I think it should be a joint task force that should also implement this and follow through, because sometimes we see that there are a lot of big announcements, but the follow through is not as robust to enforce this. So, I think the implementation and enforcement of this is very, very important.
So, how crucial and important is the joint efforts as far as the border management is concerned between Pakistan and Iran? Quite a considerable length of the border between both the countries, and Army Chief has described the Pakistan-Iran border as the border of peace and friendship.
I think that was a very welcome gesture by the Chief of Army Staff to call it this, because there are a similar ethnicity of Baloch people on both sides, on Sistan Balochistan and Balochistan, and they share familial ties across the border, which is something that should be strengthened. It's an opportunity which should be capitalized. But we see that some foreign countries, they ignite misunderstandings in that area, in that region, where one country thinks that the other is perhaps behind certain issues in that region. Whereas, if I think they work together, and there is as Ambassador Jamil just said, that the liaison officers on both sides are supposed to be there as well to coordinate and to preempt any misunderstandings and to anticipate any challenges which are happening in that area. I think that can be a very big opportunity for Pakistan and Iran to jointly develop that region, because both countries have that region which is underdeveloped, but it is resource rich, it is rich in minerals, it is rich in oil and gas, but it is unstable, it has security issues. So, I think there should be a joint not only security strategy for that region, but also a joint development region. And
the establishment of the sustenance markets is
assistance markets is also good. I agree with Afridi Saab as far as the assistance markets are concerned, but also they can be, we have in international diplomacy sister provinces, province to province cooperation can also be there. I would also go as far as to say that we should have Gwadar-Chabahar cooperation, because I have been to Gwadar many times, and you can actually see Chabahar from Gwadar. You can actually reach Chabahar in a 1.5 or 2 hours via ferry. So, why not complement that connectivity and cooperation, the opportunity which is right in front of us.
Right. Dr. Afridi, now when we talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as Ambassador Khan has already mentioned, it is the part of the charter of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the counter-terrorism. Now, both Pakistan and Iran happen to be the members of SCO. How both can utilize this platform, particularly in dealing with the menace of terrorism and impressing upon the de facto authorities in Afghanistan to fulfill their international obligation?
Tehami Saab, a very important question. Both countries, Pakistan and Iran, they are members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Pakistan joined this organization as observer back in 2005, and in 2017 became permanent member. Recently, Iran became its permanent member. Before there was observer status. Afghanistan is also there as observer within Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This organization is really important because of two reasons. One, that it's near, geographically near to both Pakistan and Iran, and also what you mentioned, the case of Afghanistan. Second, that it's, you know, rapidly growing organization in the world. After, if we see the European Union, I think it's the second one in such a way. I mean, it has multi you know, faceted tasks. It deals with so many things. There is an institution within SCO that is called RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure. And under this RATS, all the members, they are committed to fight against the terrorism and also against the separatism, against the extremism, you know, the three evils, or what's already there in the charter of SCO. Already joint military drills or joint military exercises have been held, not only with Pakistan has done with other countries, but even almost all countries they have done. Even Pakistan has done its drills with India. So Afghanistan is a concern. There is a special group of SCO on Afghanistan that is called SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization Contact Group on Afghanistan. So Russia is concerned, China is concerned, who are the two giant, you know, big founding members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or its predecessors, the Shanghai Five. So I think that even Pakistan and Iran, they can do very well under the umbrella of SCO, with the collaboration of even Russia and China or its Central Asian republics, the other members of SCO, to work on Afghanistan more and more. Another thing
please go ahead.
Afghanistan is, you know, immediate neighbor of Pakistan as well as of Iran. Many Afghan refugees, they are living in Pakistan, and some they are also living in Iran. So I think in this situation where there is no diplomatic recognition to Afghanistan, and we are confronting with so many challenges of security or maybe of economic boost, or the border closure very often between Pakistan and Afghanistan, or even between Pakistan and Iran. So both countries, yes, they can work under SCO, they must work under SCO, because it is very best example. Let me tell you one thing more, that this SCO, it had already concentrated on the border security. If we look to the China's border agreements with Russia, Russian Federation, and also with Central Asian republics, with Tajikistan, with Kyrgyzstan, back in 96, 97. So now look, not only they reduce the border security forces, their troops on the border, but also they change their hostile borders into the borders of friendship. So now the COAS, he has very, you know, rightly pointed towards to develop and to make this Pak-Iran border into the border of peace and friendship. It's possible, and yes, SCO can play very significant role in this.
Very rightly pointed out, very pertinent point that you've just highlighted at the end of the show. Unfortunately, we are short of time, and I'll have to wrap the show over here. There are a lot of aspects to be discovered regarding this bilateral relationship between Iran and Pakistan, but the time has ended. Dr. Manzoor Afridi, Foreign Affairs expert, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Mustafa Haider, International Relations expert, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype, we were honored to have been joined by Dr. Jamil Khan, former ambassador. Ambassador Khan, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.